All right, we're going to do a speed drill here in just a moment. Want to review over some things that, of course, we practiced multiple times throughout the financial literacy supplement, but it's been a little while since we've looked at adding signed numbers. Let's go through these rules together very quickly, class. If the signs are the same, add and keep the sign. If the signs are different, subtract and keep the sign of the greater absolute value. So positives add together to get positives, negatives add together to get negatives. When those signs are different, you end up actually subtracting the values and keeping the winner. What if the problem had indicated to subtract, though? What if instead of being an addition problem, it told you to subtract? Do we ever do that, class?
No.
No, we don't subtract, we do what? Add the inverse. What if we multiply a couple signed numbers together? Well, then it doesn't matter which sign's bigger, it's just about do they match or not. If the signs are the same in multiplication, class,
Positive.
automatic positive. If they're different,
Negative.
automatic negative. What about division if the signs are the same?
Same.
Automatic positive. And if they're not different,
Negative.
automatic negative. Same rules as multiplication. So, should do fairly well on a fairly quick, short speed drill for a change. Nothing but signed numbers. We've had a few of them here and there in the past. But nothing but. You can also see the end when you open up to page 22 because you notice 22 and 23, that's it. We are almost done with this booklet. We're almost done with the year. Just got about, what, 5 weeks left? So we're getting down toward the end. Stay focused, though. Stay focused over these last few, or several, I guess, weeks. The speed test 46, you're going to have 2 minutes to complete the speed drill. You'll notice division is shown using what? Fraction bars. You'll notice multiplication is shown using parentheses up against each other. And the addition and subtraction, they went ahead and set up vertically for you there. 2 minutes for speed drill 46, and you may begin. Finished early, double check, make sure you did the right thing with all your signs. Stop. All right, most of you were done already anyway. Pencils down and put those off your desks. Exchange with the person behind you, person in the back. Bring yours up to the front. Sign your name is greater in pen. Next where it says speed test 47. There at the bottom of speed drill 46. Again, pencils should be off your desks. Sign your name is greater, and these are 10 points each. If I say a positive, it doesn't have to be written, remember. So if I say positive and they have no sign, that's the same thing. If I say positive and they have a negative, it is wrong. If I say negative and they have nothing or a positive, it is wrong. We all understand that. All right, so number one, going across the top row, -3. -3. Number two, -12. -12. Number three, -14. -14. Number four, +7. positive 7. Number 5, negative 40. Negative 40. Number 6, positive 27. Positive 27. Number 7, negative 5. Negative 5. Number 8, positive 32. Positive 32. Number 9, negative 9. Negative 9. And number 10 is negative 4. Negative 4. 10 points each, put the score in the score blank. Also flip over to that score page, and next to it says Speed Drill 46. Go ahead and put their score. Next to it says Speed Drill 46. Once you got a score both places, return to the owner by passing it to the person in front of you. If you're at the front, take it to the back. And take a look at your scores. How many hundreds today? How many hundreds today? Oh, the whole middle row of guys. Good job. How many 90s today? Just missed one thing. Okay, 80s. Just missed a couple of things. Still not too bad. Any questions? Any questions on these? Going once. Going twice. Gone. Pass them forward. And take your textbooks over to page 308. Textbooks out, open to page 308. We've been doing a lot of work with graphs lately. What are the 3 graphs we've been working on so far? Bryson? Bar graph?
Normal bar graph.
There was more to the bar graph. There was a more to it type bar graph, but what did we call it, Kirsten? Stacked bar graph. And Bryson, do you remember the last one we worked on the last 2 days? Kirsten made one on the back wall there for you. Yeah, circle graph. Circle graph. We said that the purpose of the bar graph is to compare data that is class...
the numerical, no.
Compare data that is related. Compare data that's related, but independent. The one doesn't affect the other. So for instance, with a circle graph, right, if we were to say, how many of you would choose a dog over a cat or other animal? Okay, how many of you would choose a cat over any other animal? How many say, I would choose something else over a dog or a cat? Now you realize if you can only vote once, this really isn't independent, is it? Because by putting your hand up for one thing, you are now not putting your hand up for another thing. This would be best done as a circle graph, where we could compare individual parts to the whole. But if I were to measure how tall you were, well, your height in no way affects anyone else's height, right? It may make you taller than someone else, but just because Ben is 6'1", doesn't mean Corey couldn't be 6'1". I mean, he happens not to be, but it's not because of Ben. It's like, oh, it's not fair. You got all the height. Like, height doesn't work that way, right? Height is independent. So if we compared heights of something like that, well, that's independent. That makes a good bar graph. Every graph, though, whether it's bar, stacked bar, circle, every graph at the top needs to have class A title that tells us what the graph is about. And then on a stacked bar graph, and sometimes on circle graphs, we'll have a little color key that tells us what means what. Luciana, what's that called?
Legend.
A legend. On a bar graph, it's very important that underneath or beside, depending on which direction the bars go, we have words that tell us what the bars are talking about. What are those things next to or below bars that tell us what they are talking about, Joel?
Labels.
The labels. And then on a bar graph, not on a circle graph, we need to have numbers telling us what do the lengths of bars mean, Jalen? The scale, very good. And when we put the scale on there, we're specifically putting the scale everywhere we have lines that come down or lines that go across if the scale goes up. What are those lines called that have the numbers on them? What do we call the lines that have numbers with them? Kirsten?
Major grid lines?
Major grid lines. And then oftentimes, not always, but often we'll put some extra lines that may not actually have numbers, but they still help us to read the graph class. Those are called the minor grid lines. And it's important as you look at the graph to know how much space is there between major grid lines, how much space between the minor grid lines, so that we can read our graphs effectively. Oftentimes we will label a circle graph with some percents or something in the little sectors, or perhaps words in the sectors if we didn't use a legend. But we don't need the scale because really we're just comparing the part to the Whole. And in fact, if we're finding percents for a bar graph, if we know that, raise your hand again if you're dog people. Dog people, you choose dog over another animal if you had the choice. All right, 5 out of 9. That'd be 56% if we round roughly, right? How do we get 56% there? 5 out of 9. Class, we start by making a fraction. 5/9. And turn that, hey, we memorized this, didn't we? Anything over 9, it's self-repeating. So 5/9 would be 0.5 repeating, 0.55555, which I just rounded to 56%. We make percents by first making class a fraction, the part over the whole. What if I knew that 22% of the class happened to want a cat over another animal? 22% of the cat class is cat people. And I knew there were 9 people in the class. How would I figure out how many that is? We multiply. The 0.22 times the 9. Now, it may not come out exact, but it'll come out close enough. I believe it would be 1.98 people. Well, okay. Remember, graphs show approximations anyway. So if I'm saying that 1.98 people would choose a cat, really, class, how many people? 2 people. 2 people, which it rounds to 2. Really glad. Anyway, would choose cat. So we remember those things. Page 308 in your textbooks, you did numbers 10 to 22 for the homework. Let's take a look at these together and then we'll do some more review over this. Nothing new today, just doing some review as we finish out. Finish that out right there. Of 400 total voters, how many voted for this guy, for this lady, for this guy, for that? Why don't you work on it real quick? At least show what you do. Even if you don't have time to do the calculations, but show what you would do to get those answers real quick. Good. All right, starting with number 10 through 13, they give us a graph. What's the title of our graph, Luciana?
Types of trees. Oh, wait, no. Votes.
Votes. There we go for numbers 10 through 13, votes. And we're supposed to find how many people voted for these 4 different candidates. We don't know what these votes are for. I would like a little more detailed title. Does everyone see the title's a little lame? Votes. Votes for what? Votes for city council, votes for president of the United States, votes for president of the Save the Tree Club. Like, what are we doing here? Anyway, it is important to note that it told us there are how many total voters, class?
400.
And since they went ahead and labeled the sectors for us, they told us that Vincent Otero got 17% of the votes. Then what do we have to do to figure out how many actual people voted for Vincent?
4 times 17.
Good. Technically 400, right, class? But what's going to happen with those 2 zeros and the 2 decimal places? They're just going to cancel off anyway, right? I put the 2 zeros and then I boink boink them right off again. Why not just say 4 times 17 to get anyone?
68.
68 voters. We can do the same thing for Lisa Wilson, who got 27% of the vote. Instead of 0.27 times 400, those zeros are going to boink right off anyway when you hang them on the end, so let's just skip them completely. 27 times 4, how many people voted for Mrs. Wilson? Joel? 108. How many people voted for Frank Brown? He only got 16% of the vote. Griffin?
64.
And then John Wells got most of the vote, a majority of, they got more than the others did. Still didn't technically get a majority. How many votes did John Wells end up with, Bryson? 160 votes. Now, if this were a normal election, we would just say John Wells won. If this was for actual office, official political office, they would do a runoff. How many remember runoff elections recently? Maybe heard that in the news. So recently in Alabama, there's a new congressional district they formed. I am in that new congressional district. And there were about a dozen different people in each the Republican and Democratic primaries who wanted this seat. So what they did was they had a big election where nobody got much votes because there were so many candidates. And then they took the top 2 and said, okay, now people, now you're going to pick between the top 2. So if this were an official election, they would have John Wells and Lisa Wilson compete against each other. And now that it's just the 2 of them, one of them has got to get the majority of the votes. And that would break the tie. But again, if this were just a small office, or maybe this was like class president, 400 people for a class president. I don't know. Larger school, 400 people in the senior class, you know, voting for senior president.
What?
There we go. What?
I don't know about that.
Anyway, all right, let's drop down. Any questions on 10 through 13? We all good with that? All right, number 14, kind of did the opposite direction here. Instead of being told the percents and finding the actual numbers, they give us actual numbers and wanted us to find percents. Read number 14 for us, Corey.
Haley makes $2,000 per month. The following are the amounts that she budgets for each month: $1,000 for bills, $400 for $300 for clothing, $200 for ties, and $100 for entertainment.
All right, there's no savings on there, I noticed, and savings would be a good thing to put on there. I noticed she also just took bills and just bills, okay? The insurance bill, the power bill, the water bill, the phone bill, it's just bills, okay? They're just gonna, the mortgage or rent, bills, $1,000. That's actually not that much for bills. Anyway, but she makes $2,000 total. What percent does she budget for each? Well, $1,000 for bills out of $2,000 she makes, that's an easy fraction, class. Half, which as a percent is, how many found she budgets 50% of her income just for her bills, which again, normally would be more than 50%. Ooh, questions on that? All right, look at the next thing. She budgets $400 for food. That's not too bad a fraction. When you put the 400 over the 2,000, class, first knock off the zeros and then reduce the 4/20ths down to 1/5, which as a decimal is 0.2, which as a percent would be 20%. So we know 20% of her monthly income goes for food. Gotta have food to survive. $300 a month for clothing. That's a lot every month for clothing. Unless you're starting out with nothing, and then it's not as much, but I mean, that's a lot of money. Anyway, whatever. It's not my job to argue about it. We just do this right here. 3/20ths. Ooh, 3/20ths. I don't know what that is, but percent means hundreds. So to make a denominator of 100, now that we've knocked the zeros off anyway, class, just multiply top and bottom by 5 to get 15 hundredths, right? Or in other words, class, 15% of her budget goes toward clothing. Maybe slightly misplaced priorities, I don't know. Maybe she lives in her mom's basement. Maybe she's one of those. It's just so she's not paying her rent, so she doesn't have as much bills, and so she can go shop for the latest and greatest clothing and feed her fetish and addiction. She needs help. Anyway, I just got some dislikes from all the people living in their parents' basement. All right, don't do that, people. Be better than that. $200 for her tithe. Well, class, that's right at 10%, 1/10, which would be 10%. We remember that from talking about budgeting earlier. So our tithe, 10%. And then another 100 for entertainment. Now, 100 is half of 200, right? 200 was the tithe, it was 10%. 100 for entertainment is half of that. So what percent is it going to be? 5%. And we don't even have to do any actual math there. And I'll just abbreviate because I'm lazy. And how many had these 5 answers for number 14? Questions on 14, finding percents. And make the fraction, reduce it, go from there. Number 15, types of trees. How many pine trees are in the children's park? How many pine trees in the children's park? Elaine?
10.
Children's park. Okay, that's the shortest bar. There's not very many trees there. And we're looking for the pinky color, because that's pine. And so that would be 20 pine trees in the children's park. How many oak trees, that's the blue one, bluish, kind of blue, yeah, it's blue. The blue one in the state park. So look at the state park, how many oak trees there, Jalen? That bar goes right up to 60. It's also the bottom bar, which is the easiest to read. Which park had the most trees overall, Kirsten? The Federal Park, and not by much, but it had the most, and you can tell it's just along the tallest bar altogether. Which park had the fewest pine trees, Joel?
State Park.
Yeah, State Park had the smallest little pink section, so we can easily tell, but not very many pine trees there. How many maple trees in the children's park? Ben?
10.
Good, 10. We're looking at the green there. It goes from the 30 up to the 40, or if you knew the minor grid lines were 10, just one minor grid line space. How many oak trees on private acreage? How many oak trees in the private acreage, Griffin?
50.
And right up to 50. Very good. How many got all those answers right? You read the stacked bar graph, no trouble. Questions at all on stacked bar graph? All right. Number 21. Yeah, let's do not forget how to find a mean and median and mode. Plus, let's remember that mean means average, which means we add up the numbers and then divide by how many there are. Median means middle number. After you put them in order or
Oh,
rank them. There we go. Mode is the number that occurs most often, and then the range is simply the
No.
difference between highest and lowest number. So it would help on number 21 if we would rank the data first. Let's start by ranking it here. Bryson, tell me what to write.
6, 7, 11, 12, 14, 14, 16, 18, 19.
All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good, so we got them all. Good way to double check before you start marking things. And let's start at the bottom. Let's find the range first. Because all I got to do, class, is subtract. The biggest minus the smallest. What's the range, Corey?
13.
13. Then the mode, the number that occurred most often. Is there a mode, Luciana?
Yes.
There is. Not much of one, but there is a mode.
14.
14. For the median, I said once you got them ranked, class, do a little bit of quick salt and pepper. And you could do a couple at a time if you wanted to. And there's my middle value, class. 14 is our median. What if there were two middle values? What if there had been an even number of data points, and so there were two middles? Let's just suppose there hadn't been a 19. And there's two middles now. What do I do? Add and divide by 2, or find what's right in between them, which would have been a 13, if that had been the case. And then for the mean, we actually had to add them all together. What did we get when we added them all up, Elaine?
We got 13.
Well, 13 is then, yeah, when we added, what was your sum?
117.
Good, the sum was 117. She then had to divide by the 9 total values, and you got a mean of 13. Any outliers here, class? No, so what's the best indicator of normal?
Mean.
The mean. If there had been an outlier, then our best indicator of normal, class, would be the median. Generally, the mode is not a good indicator of normal unless you have no other choice. Categorical data, for instance. Number 22, they ranked it for you. Wasn't that nice of them? So again, starting at the end with the easy stuff and ending with the hard stuff, what is the range here, Jalen? Letter D, your 10 is our range. What's our mode, or do we even have one, Kirsten? Yeah, no mode this time. What about the median? What was that value here, Joel? 38. The 37 and 39 were both middles, but those average out to a 38. And then if you actually took the time to add them all together and divide by 8, you would get what for your mean then?
64?
Not 64, Griffin?
36.
What was your sum, Griffin, when you added them all together?
271.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we had a little bit, I think you actually forgot to add one of the values.
304.
Should have added it all up to get 304, and then divided by 8, so I'm assuming that means, Bryson, you got it.
58. No, 38.
38, misread his 3 for a minute there. 38 for the mean. Questions on the homework. Questions on the homework. I look across the page 309. And look at numbers 1 through 8. Quickly answer questions 1 through 8. Pencil down when you're done. Quickly answer questions 1 through 8 there at the top of page 309. Answering those questions about the bar graph. Just go through, answer those questions, then pencil down so I know that you're finished. Not necessarily racing or anything, so we're not going to have candy competition here, but Elaine. Good Joel. Good Luciana. Good Ben. Good Griffin, Corey, Jalen. Let's see how we did. Number one, I think I may have accidentally said it, but what kind of graph is rainfall in Seattle, Ben?
Bar.
Bar graph. Number two, which year had the lowest recorded rainfall, Joel? 2008. Which 2 years had the most recorded rainfall? Griffin.
2014 and 2012.
Good, 2012, 2014. What year had about 39 inches of rainfall? Bryson?
07.
2007. Number five, how many of these years, and they show not quite a decade there, which of those years had at least 40 inches of rainfall? Corey?
4.
4 different years. Good. What are the years that had between 35 and 40 inches? So they didn't hit the 40 mark, but they were at least between 35 and 40. Which years were those, Luciana?
2007, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2015.
No, that's not between 35 and 40. Elaine?
Okay.
Number 6?
Yeah, it's 07, 09, and 11.
Good. 2007, 2009, 2011. Let's go back to Luciana for number 7. What was the recorded rainfall in 2015?
45.
45
Inches?
inches. There we go. 45 inches. And that's a difference, right? Because there's only 45 centimeters of rainfall. Okay, but 45 inches. Okay, so we're good. And how many more inches of rainfall were recorded in 2010 than in 2013? Obviously, way more rain. You look at the 2010 bar. Man, it's tall. 2013, a bad year for rain. How many more inches did they get in 2010, though, than in 2013? And notice they didn't start this bar graph at 0, which is what I would suggest that they should have done. But it did make it a little easier to read, at least, so it's deceptive. It almost looks like, doesn't it, that 2012 had like 3 times as much rain? It did have 3 times as much rain. Graph's a little deceptively drawn, but Jalen? 14 more inches in 2010 than 2013. This is how we can lie with statistics, right? You look at this like, man, 2012 and 2014 had a bunch of rain. In 2008, 2013, those must have been drought years. Well, I mean, comparatively they were lower, but they aren't a third or half the rainfall of normal years either, are they? So this is how sometimes people can lie with statistics, right? You throw a graph up there on the news just long enough to see, man, that bar's long, man, that bar's short. And then they take it off the screen again before you have a chance to notice what they did with the actual numbers. Make things look better or look worse than they are. How many got all of those correct? All 8 questions. Any questions on 1-3? Luciana, do you have any questions on 6?
No, I just skipped down actually.
Oh, okay, you were trying to do it on your off the top of it. Okay. All right, any questions 1 through 8? Do numbers 9 through 17 now. Stacked bar graph. Oh, my bad. Did it again. Well, 9 through 17 at your seats. Me and my big mouth. Did you already do 9 through 17? Overachiever. several students beginning to finish up. It's important to note that each minor grid line class is
There's one.
one person. So we could count minor grid lines if we wanted to. We could also do math on some of these. The question number 9, obviously class, what kind of graph is it?
Stacked bar graph.
Stacked bar graph. What subject did students like the most? And this was me when I was in junior high also, Bryson. Jim, of course, PE is the favorite subject. What was the least favorite subject? And we're gotta throw somebody under the bus. Corey? English. I'm not gonna ask who that is. I don't want to incriminate anybody. Though I thought this was odd. I would have, this is just me from my experience, I would have thought the least favorite would be higher boys than girls on English. But hey, you know, whatever. Number 12. What are the subjects that more than 20 students chose as their favorite? So more than 20 said, these are our favorites. Luciana?
Math, gym, and art.
Math, gym, and art. All right, so math I get, gym I get, art. I guess if you're artsy, more power to you. I mean, it's at least a little bit relaxed, right? I mean, it's art, so sounds fun. I'm no artist. Number 14. Number 13. What the greatest number of girls chose which as their favorite subject, Elaine?
Art.
Art. We can tell that the pink section of art is bigger than any of the other pink sections. Greatest number of boys chose which subject as their favorite, Jalen? Gym, and no surprise there. Though there's a lot of girls who like it favorite too, and that's good. I teach gym too, in case you're wondering, if you're YouTube people. I teach PE also. How many girls chose math as their favorite subject, Kirsten?
21. Oh, wait.
Well, there were 21 total students, but how many of them were girls? Well, the boys' bar ends where?
At 9.
At 9, and there's 21 total, so that leaves how many girls?
11.
Ooh, the pain, the pain.
12.
12. Yeah, 21 minus 9 would be 12. There are 12 girls' favorite math. How many boys said, yeah, history rather than English? How many boys said, yeah, history is my favorite, as opposed to, oh, I misread that. Earlier when I commented on the English, I thought the boys, it wasn't asking what's your least favorite. It's just, what is your favorite? There were very few boys who said English was favorite. Okay, sorry, I'm understanding it better now. How many more boys said, yeah, history is favorite versus those who said English is favorite? Joel? 8 more boys. Yeah, we've got 11 boys said history is favorite. I liked history when I was in school, especially when they got talking about wars and stuff.
Yeah.
Not as much when they talked about Pharaoh and Ming dynasties and stuff, but when they started talking about the world wars, things got a little bit more interesting, strategy and troop movements and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, how many more girls said art rather than science? How many more girls said art rather than science, Ben?
10.
10 more girls chose art over science.
10.
Yeah, we heard you. We understand you. How many got all of those correct? You went 9 for 9 on those. Any questions on any of those? Turn the page. And I got another one for you this time. 18 to 25. 18 to 25. Just reviewing over stuff, making sure we're good to go on all this. Do 18 to 25 now on page 310. This time they don't ask what kind of graph it is. Can't win. Yeah, but for sake of time, let's go ahead and take a look at these. I know most of you haven't had a chance to finish all of them. How many hikers were in the 60 to 70-year-old range over the course of that year? Ben?
4.
The only 4 elderly hikers. How many 10 to 30-year-old hikers came by the Swift Current Pass to go hiking? Griffin?
56.
56. Now in the 10 to 20-year-old, you got 18, but then you've got another 38 in the 20 to 30 range. So we need to add both of those groups together. Which of those age groups, and notice I like that the age groups were nice, like even breakdowns this time, but which of those age groups had exactly 12 hikers who came by in the spring? How many had 12 hikers in the spring? Bryson?
See. It's wrong.
So we're looking for a green section that's about 12 units long.
Right, it is.
Corey?
40, 50.
The 40 to 50. Yeah, 30 to 40 looks like it's got, 14 hikers, and then 20 to 30 has 11 hikers. 40 to 50, that green portion is exactly 12. Which age group had most of the summer hikers? Which age group had the most summertime hikers? Back to Bryson.
Did it wrong too.
Uh-oh. We're looking for a big, well, summer is what color?
Summer is pink or red.
The pinky red, yeah. And so we're looking for which of those age groups had a big section of pinky red in it.
20, 30.
The 20 to 30-year-olds had the most summertime hikers. How many total 50 to 70 age hikers went hiking during the winter? How many wintertime 50 to 70-year-olds? That's 2 different age brackets we got to look at. Luciana?
2.
2. Couple 50 to 60-year-olds braved the winter at Swift Current Pass, and that was it. Let's see here. They also didn't want to brave the summer either, I noticed. Hey, I don't blame them. Spring and fall's where it's at. How many more hikers, 20 to 30, hiked summer than spring? How many more 20 to 30-year-olds went summertime hiking than springtime hiking? Elaine?
7.
7 more. Good, because we've got, 18 people in the summer and only 11 people in the spring, so subtract 7. Good. How many total 10 to 40-year-olds hiked in the fall? So writing up the yellow sections for the 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Jalen? One off.
87.
Oh my, no, not total hikers, just in the spring. So we're only looking at the, or in the fall, excuse me, so we're only looking at the yellow portion. I think you added all the bars total. Kirsten?
19.
Other direction. 17. So that's 17 hikers. And then which group had 6 fall time hikers? We're looking for a yellow portion that is 6. Joel?
56.
The 50 to 60-year-olds. Good. Let's drop down to numbers 56 to 32. What kind of graph is that, class?
Circle graph.
Circle graph, just because they didn't ask. Do 26 to 32. Do 26 to 32. Bryson finished? And finished? I like their color choices, by the way. In your book, your mint chocolate chip almost looks blue. In my book, it printed, I think, the correct shade, which is that light green, that minty green. So, well, some of you, yours looks minty green. I don't know. I guess different printings of the book do different things. Weird. Well, let's take a look at these together. Number 26, what was the favorite flavor of the bunch, Kirsten?
Chocolate.
The chocolate, which I think is kind of boring. What percent of those surveyed said either vanilla or strawberry was favorite, Jalen?
30%.
30%. We add the 13 and the 17 together. Of those surveyed, how many said their favorite ice cream was mint chocolate chip? Now for this, we have to go back up to the top, and it said how many total people were surveyed, class? 200. So if 16% said mint chocolate chip was favorite, Elaine, how many mint chocolate chip people were there?
32.
32. How many strawberry people? Luciana?
26.
26. How about butter pecan people, Corey? What do we need to do? Well, how many butter pecan, how many people in general, looking at the graph, how many people said butter pecan's favorite?
12%.
12%. Of how many total people were in the survey?
200.
So just take 12% of 200, which means we need to,
Multiply.
what?
200 times 0.12.
What's going to happen to the 2 zeros in the 2 decimal places?
Nothing.
They're going to cancel with each other, so we're just going to get
20.
24. How many more people said they liked cookies and cream better than butter pecan? Ooh, so we got to actually find these numbers. We just found butter pecan is 24, but we got to find the cookies and cream. How many cookies and cream people were there? 19% is how many, Joel? 38. So if there's 38 cookies and cream people, 24 butter pecan people, how many more people like the cookies and cream than butter pecan, Joel?
14.
14 more. Or you could do this, you could do the percents. You could say 7% more, and 7% of 200 is 14. That might have actually been quicker now that I think about it. How many more people said they like cookies and cream than mint chocolate chip? Well, on 28A, we said how many mint chocolate chip people, class?
46.
32 for 28A. And we just said cookies and cream was 38. So how many more people are liking the cookies and cream than mint chocolate chip, class? 6 more. How many people either said vanilla or cookies and cream is favorite? Well, what's the total percent for vanilla and cookies and cream? Anyone? Well, the answer is 72 people. I'm just going to get, yeah, there we go, 36%. 19% and 17% is 36%. Then 36% of 200 would be 72 people. How many people chose either strawberry, chocolate, or vanilla? They're boring, bland people. Apologies if I offended you a little bit. At least get them all three together. Neapolitan, you get all three at once. Anyway, you're the strawberry, vanilla, or chocolate. You don't need anything fancy mixed in. You like it just the way it is, a purist. That's how you think of yourself. And how many purists were there? Anybody? 106. Yeah, those percents together gets to 53%, 106 people. Look at the next page. Let's round it out here with our last graph. Sports drink flavors sold in a week. And it said how many total sports drinks at the vending machine in 1 week, class? 60. Says that up with a little blurb above all of this. So, how many lemon lime drinks were sold? Well, it says what percent were lemon lime, class? 25%. So 25% of 60 is going to be how many drinks? 15. Write that in a little blank in the green portion, if you would, please, for lemon lime. Put the 15 drinks there under the 25%. Which, by the way, then means, look across fruit punch. Well, if there were 15 drinks for fruit punch, that's what percent?
25.
Because 25% is 15, so 15 is 25%. That's also our answer for number 35. I just figured we might as well knock that out now. Look at number 34. How many grape drinks sold? 20%. How many grape drinks? 20% of 60. 12. 0.2 times 60, not the point and the 0 off 12. Oh, which means in blue raspberry class, if there were 12 blue raspberry, that must be what percent? 20%. Now, real quick. 12 purple, right? 20%. Look at the orange, 10%. That's half as much, right? So if there were 12 purple, how many orange?
6.
6 is going to be half of that, right? Or you just take a tenth of 60, that works too. How many orange and grape drinks?
18.
18. 6 and 12 makes 18, or 30%. How many, or what percent of blue raspberry and orange were sold?
30.
30% for blue raspberry and orange. How many blue raspberry and orange drinks total were sold?
18.
18, the 6 and 12. What two flavors together made up half, 50% of all the drinks sold from the vending machine?
Lemon,
Lime,
lime,
fruit punch.
Lemon, lime, and fruit punch were the most. I don't really care for the lemon, lime, to be honest. I know it's the classic, but I'm not a lemon, lime guy. I don't know. I like the bluish flavors. You know, Gatorade
No.
Frost flavors, purple flavor.
Purple.
Anyway, that was my go-to when I was cross country runner. Was the light blue Gatorade Frost. Anyway, homework for the weekend. Page 311 to 312. Do the homework 1 to 18. Page 311 to 312. Do the homework 1 to 18. We are looking at a quiz in our next lesson. So all we did today was review the stuff we reviewed. The stuff you'll review in the homework will prepare you for the quiz in our next lesson. So page 311 to 312. Homework 1 through 18. All right, you are dismissed. Have a wonderful rest of your day.